Okay, let's revise. Sexual reproduction in human beings comprise of basically how the fertilization takes place. We'll be studying first of all how chromosome number is retained, that is by the process of meiosis. Human beings with 23 pairs of chromosomes are there. Father 22 pair plus XY, it's heterogametic. And mother will contribute 22 pair and XX chromosome. This is homogametic. Homogametic means they have the perfect pair, the XX chromosomes, that's a perfect pair. When the meiosis takes place, gametes are formed. The gametes may either contain 22 plus X chromosome or 22 plus Y chromosome because father has X and Y chromosome as a sex chromosome. Rest of these 22 pair of chromosomes are the chromosomes which are called somatic chromosomes. Basically, they contribute to the other characteristics, just like the height, the color of the eye, the color of the hair, like this. Okay. Mother also contribute equal number of chromosomes. Now, gametes of the mother, it will comprise of 22 plus X chromosome or 22 plus X chromosome because mother contribute only X chromosome. When the fusion between male and female gamete takes place, so the offspring will have 22 plus XX chromosome, or the second scenario, offspring will have 22 plus XY chromosome. In case it is 22 plus XX chromosome, it led to the formation of female gamete, female child is born. And in case 22 pair and XY is formed, so that led to the formation of a male child. Okay, so male child is born. So there is an equal contribution from both the parents. Both the parents, they provide 23 chromosomes, and how the chromosome number is retained. You see the parents are having 46 chromosomes in total, and so is the offspring. Again, they're having 46 chromosomes. In all the species, all the organisms, this chromosome number is retained. In sexual reproduction, it happens with the help of meiosis because the gametes, they contain half the number of chromosomes. We call this condition as haploid. We'll be writing as N. And parents will be termed as diploid. Diploid will be referred to as 2N. Hope this is clear. Let's study something more about now the male gamete and the female gamete. The male gamete, which is also called sperm. So what are the characteristics of the male gamete and what are the characteristics of female gamete? Female gamete, which is known as ovum. The first thing is that the male gamete is smaller in size and does not store food. It is smaller in size. Hope you're writing. And does not store food. Why is food required? Basically, food is required because when the zygote is formed, it has to divide repeatedly to form embryo. And the zygote is not connected to any of the part of the female body, and that's why it's not able to absorb the nutrients from the female body. So that's why it should have some food store, just like a seed is there. When the seed is to germinate, so at that time it is taking the food from the cotyledons. Although it is having the soil, it is inside the soil. It's having all the conditions, all the nutrients, but it's not able to absorb those nutrients. For that, it should have some radicle. It should have the roots for the absorption because it doesn't have that perfect system fully developed. So as a result, it has to rely upon the endosperm. It has to rely upon the cotyledons for the food. So is the case of the human beings also. When the fertilization takes place, when the zygote is formed, it has to divide repeatedly to form embryo. So at that time, during that process, there should be one gamete which has stored food. The male gamete does not store food. Male gamete is smaller in size. It does not have the food. But the female gamete is bigger in size and it has food stored in it. So what are the features they are complementary? Second point is it's motile. It is motile because it has to move. It is non-motile because it has to be there. It has to stay at the same place because the complete process of further development of the zygote will take place and inside the womb of the mother. Next, it is produced in large number. And this is produced in female gamete is produced just one at a time. All right. Next thing, but the body becomes active. So you see puberty, you must have heard about puberty, you have learned about that in your class 8. I'll be just going through the topic fast because you have already learned about that. So puberty is basically the changes which take place at the time of adolescence. Adolescence is basically the period between childhood and adulthood, when the physical, emotional, and reproductive maturity take place. So during that time, puberty is achieved. So in female, the part, or you can say the when the puberty is achieved and when the reproductive system becomes mature, we call this as menarche. Menarche is onset of puberty in females, right? We don't know about the common pubertal changes which take place in boys and girls. So you can just read about that in your books, like growth of the pubic hair, right? Growth of the hair in the armpits, genital areas, increase in the height, development of acne and pimples on the face. This is just because oil glands, sebaceous glands, sweat glands become more active during that time. Activation of oil glands, sebaceous glands, sweat glands. So that is one of the most important features. You can write down any of these points. Changes which take place in voice, like the crackling of the sound is there. The sound, the voice becomes more heavy, more coarse. There is enlargement of the voice box also, which basically protrudes out in the neck, forming Adam's apple. So it's quite visible. Further, there is broadening of the shoulders. You can write down for some more points like enlargement of the reproductive organs. So changes, again, some more changes which take place in the girls. For example, shrillness of the voice. Girls' voice becomes shrill, boys' voice become more heavier. And there is onset of the menstrual cycle. What is menstrual cycle? Now we'll be studying about that. Okay. Before that, we have to study the human male reproductive system and human female reproductive system. Let's start with the human male reproductive system. All right, so you can draw some simple diagram if you want to. There is another diagram which is there in your NCRT. You can copy that also. Otherwise, there is a simple diagram. If you want, you can just draw this one also in your exam. Just quickly copy it. So that is entirely you have to check with your class teacher if you can draw this diagram. This is a simple one. You have drawn this diagram in your lower classes also. You can draw this one also. And second diagram is the one which is given in the NCRT. All right. Let's start with the labeling. Urinary bladder, seminal vesicle, then there is another gland which I haven't drawn. Let me draw that as well. Just behind the urinary bladder, prostate gland. Urethra, vas deferens, penis, epididymis, testis, two in number, which lies in the scrotum. All right, let's begin with the different parts of the male reproductive system. The functions one after the other, just listen. I'll share the notes with you, so no need to write down. Just understand and listen now. First of all, the testes. Testes basically is the primary sex organs which is located outside the abdominal cavity. So this is something very important why it is present outside the abdominal cavity and it's present in the muscular bag which is called scrotum. So testis is present in the muscular bag which is called scrotum. Why this is so? Why it is present outside the abdominal cavity? Because it provides it a lower temperature, say around a temperature of 1 to 3 degrees Celsius less than the normal body temperature, which is required for the sperm production. So this is one of the very important questions which could be asked: why testis lies outside the abdominal cavity? So you'll be writing because it required little lower temperature for the production of sperms. What is the function of testis? So testis ka function, so we'll be writing two functions. Testis basically, if you all remember, we have already discussed this thing. This is a dual gland. So dual gland is something which is exocrine as well as endocrine. So basically it helps in the sperm production. So it acts like an exocrine gland. And it acts like endocrine gland because it produces hormones. That is the testosterone. Testosterone, like we have already discussed what is the function of testosterone. It helps in the development of secondary sexual characteristics in the male. Next organ that we are discussing is the epididymis. The epididymis is a horseshoe-shaped structure which basically receives the sperms from the testis. It filters them and makes them motile. So it is basically the storehouse. It stores the sperms for a period of time. There is a vas deferens. So vas deferens is just like the tube. If you can see this tube which is present over here, this is vas deferens. Vas deferens is also known as sperm duct. It's also known as sperm duct. So sperm duct basically or vas deferens helps in the transfer of sperms to the urethra. Next is seminal vesicle. Seminal vesicles, which you can see over here, right? It's a gland. And as you can see, it's 2 in numbers, but it's a pure gland. It secretes the fluid which is called seminal plasma, which nourishes the sperms and makes the sperms motile. So basically help the transportation of the sperms easier because it provides it motility. It also provides the nutrition and help in providing motility. So basically helps it to keep it alive as a source of energy. So nourishment, nutrition. Next is the prostate gland. Prostate gland over here I have labeled. This is behind the urinary bladder. It releases a fluid which nourishes the sperms and make them to transport easier. Next is urethra. Urethra is a common passage for carrying urine as well as semen. Now, semen is the secretion which has been secreted by seminal vesicle or any other prostate gland. So, along with the sperm, that is called semen. So, basically, urethra is called, or you can say, male reproductive system completely is called urinogenital system. Urinogenital system because it's a common passage for urine as well as the germ cells. Next is penis. Penis, male copulatory organ. Next is the female reproductive system. Let's begin with the diagram of female reproductive system now. Female reproductive system. You could be asked to draw any of these diagrams. You could be asked for 5 marks, but asked to label, name the part where sperms get carried, name the parts for which provide nourishment, like this. You could be asked to label any. Female reproductive system. So diagram could be asked for 3 marks and the labeling for 2 marks. What else the question be? Let's draw the female reproductive system. You can draw with me or you can refer to notes. That's important, so you have to practice it. Double it and then like this. All right. Double this structure, that is the uterus Like I said, you can practice the diagrams from your NCERT. These are the easier ones. Just use them for understanding the topic. You can draw it from there or draw this as well. That's it. Let's start. First of all, the oviduct. Oviduct, also known as fallopian tube. Next is ovary. And if you can see there are some thread-like structures, you can label it as ovarian ligaments. Uterus. Next, the most important organ, uterus. You can see uterus is lined. मैंने दोनों साइड पे uterus की lining की जो मैंने dash dash करके line करके बनाया है. So just add this, make the wall of the uterus thick. It becomes thick when it has to receive the egg from the ovary. Next is the cervix and vagina. All right. You can label ovarian ligaments if you want. That's it. So basically, ovaries are the site of the ovum production. You see, ovaries are 2 in number. Okay. And this is the site for the ovum production. Ovaries, it's also dual gland. Why this is dual gland? Again, because of the same reason. Because it's exocrine gland just because it produces ovum. And this is endocrine gland because this produces hormones, estrogen. इसे estrogen भी कहते हैं. E से start करके. So one the same thing. Progesterone. Progesterone, if you remember, it helps in maintaining pregnancy. Estrogen helps in development of the secondary sexual characteristics in the female. And exocrine, being exocrine, it releases ovum. So one ovum is released by one ovary at one time. So basically, the ovum already contain the egg cells. Ovary already contain the egg cells, ovum into it, but they are immature. And one ovum is matured and given by the ovary through the oviduct. Okay, for the fertilization. It remain in the oviduct for a period of time till it fertilizes. It is fertilized by the sperm. So one egg is produced every month by one of the ovary. Just remember, one egg is produced by every ovary every month. Fallopian tube. Next is the fallopian tube. Fallopian tube is the site of fertilization. The fertilization takes place in the fallopian tube. Okay, so this is the site of fertilization. It receives the ovum and the fertilization. If and when it takes place over here. To receive the fertilized egg, uterus walls, they prepare themselves. So uterus is there. Uterus, basically all the changes which take place in the, you can say, fertilized egg. Or when the fertilized egg is, we can call that as zygote. Zygote divide to form embryo. Embryo basically implants itself. It sticks to the wall of it. That is called implantation. It sticks to the wall of the uterus and receives the nourishment over there. And all the changes which take place in the embryo till the development of the fetus. So that all take place in the uterus. So how that take place, I will be coming to this point later on. But basically, uterus is that part where all the development of the child will take place. The fetus development will take place over here. All right. Then the fallopian tube or oviduct, like we just discussed, it receives the ovum, one ovum from each ovary every month, and the fertilization takes place. So there are two functions of fallopian tube you'll be writing. Okay, ovum, like we already discussed, it is a large cell. It is one of the largest cell also of the human body. So again, this question could be answered. It stores energy. It is haploid. It has 23 chromosomes. All this information already discussed. And if you can see uterus opens into vagina through cervix. Okay, this is just the opening. Vagina, which is also known as birth canal. All right. So basically, millions of sperms that travel upward and reach the oviduct where one ovum is present, and sperms that travel through the cervix into the uterus, reaching for the egg to fertilize. The egg which is present over here, the fertilization will take place at this point. So basically, sperms they fuse with the ovum, and the sperms fuse with the ovum. What is formed? Both of which are haploid. Zygote is formed. Where zygote is formed? Zygote is formed at oviduct because ovum was present at the oviduct, right? So this further zygote starts dividing repeatedly and zygote will further form embryo. It divides to form embryo. Embryo would be like 16, 32 cell. When it is like 32 cell around, so it starts moving towards the uterus. All right. So basically, every month the uterus wall starts becoming thicker and thicker so as to receive the fertilized egg, which is also called the zygote. So just like I have shown over here, the thickening of the wall of uterus is shown over here. So this is just because it has been thickened, it has been richly supplied with blood vessels so as to provide nourishment to the growing embryo. All right. Embryo will get the nutrition from the mother's blood through placenta. So that all we'll be studying what happened when the fertilization takes place. So this is just covering the rest of the topic under two headings, two main headings. What happened when the fertilization takes place and what happened when the fertilization does not take place. I hope till this topic everything is clear. If there is anything, any questions, you can ask. What happened when fertilization take place? So the question आपसे पूछ सकते हैं, what happened when fertilization take place? What happened when fertilization does not take place? So what different changes, what different points should be writing over? I just want, because this question is often asked for 3 marks, so just want you to write down in points, just explain one term in 1 point, okay, and just write say 7 to 8, 9, or something like that, so as to make your answer more impactful. All right. So basically what happened when the fertilization takes place? So sperm combined with ovum to form zygote that takes place in the oviduct, and then it forms repeatedly, divides repeatedly to form embryo. Now what happened to the embryo? Basically embryo implantation takes place. The first is fertilization takes place. What happened when fertilization takes place? Obviously you need not to explain over here, but like we'll be explaining from implantation. Now, what is implantation? Basically, the embryo which have been developed, it starts moving towards the uterus and it sticks to the wall of the uterus because it starts getting nourishment from there. All the food which was stored in the ovum has been used up by now. Now it wants more nutrition for the development, for the differentiation to take place because different organs have to be developed. So for that, it needs nourishment from the female body. So already we have discussed that the uterus wall becomes thick. So since the uterus wall has become thick, now it is now ready to provide nourishment to the growing embryo. So this process is called implantation. So the first step which takes place is implantation. After the implantation has taken place, the next thing is when the embryo starts getting nutrition from the mother's blood through placenta. The second thing which we'll be explaining in this answer is placenta. What is placenta? Placenta is a disc-like tissue or structure, you can write on structure, disc-like structure, which is present, of course, in the uterus, which is richly supplied. You could be asked to write short note on placenta itself, which is richly supplied with blood vessels which is richly supplied with blood vessels on either side. It has villi on embryo side. Why villi? Because villi increases the surface area for the absorption of food and also the waste material that has to be taken from the embryo body to the mother's body. So it has villi on the embryo side because villi increases the surface area, and blood spaces on mother's side. So basically this increases the surface area of the absorption. It has blood spaces on the mother side. This is just because whatever has been to be given to the embryo, whatever has to be taken from the embryo. So basically that comes into the blood spaces. All right. So this is present in case you could be asked to explain just the placenta for 2 to 3 marks. So there are just few sentences to be written, like whatever I have written over here. And you can have just one more sentence that helps in the providing nourishment to the embryo. And secondly, it helps in taking the waste material from the embryo. Okay. Now embryo will start getting nutrition from here. It starts developing. For the development led to the formation of fetus. The complete development of fetus takes place in some 9 months. So what is this period called? The next definition you will be explaining is gestation period. You can write down in days, in terms of weeks, or otherwise it's a total time since the fertilization of the sperm and the ovum till the development, till the birth of the child. So this complete total period that comprises of nearly 9 months. So you can write down in terms of weeks also, somewhere around 27 to 30 weeks or something like that. That is called gestation period. So you'll be explaining gestation period. Next, when the placenta is there, placenta has provided nourishment. Now the differentiation of the embryo will take place. It will start developing. The body of the child will start showing up. And during the gestation period, complete development of the child takes place, which is approximately 9 months. All right. Now, next is that child birth will take place. This process of giving birth to child is called parturition. Parturition. Parturition is the act of giving birth to the child by rhythmic contraction and relaxation of muscles of uterine walls. Act of giving birth to child or the fetus by rhythmic contraction and relaxation of uterine muscles. The birth of the child takes place through vagina. So vagina is basically called birth canal. All right. You could also mention the umbilical cord, which otherwise is not written in your NCERT, but umbilical cord is a cord which is connected with the placenta and on the other side with the navel of the child. So basically it's the, you can say the pipe sort of structure, the vessel, or you can say, through which the child is getting the nourishment. At the same time, it is also removing the waste material from it. All right. So this is all complete answer. What happened when the fertilization takes place? We'll be starting from implantation till the birth of the child, parturition, vagina, everything. And placenta के ऊपर ही आपको 2-3 sentences बन जाएंगे, so that will make nearly some 7 to 8 sentences in total. All right. We'll be explaining this all in detail, like I just explained it to you. Next, what happens when fertilization does not take place? What happens?
Ma'am, can you go back to the last slide for just a second?
Sure. This is just a short note. I'll be giving you detailed notes.
Done, ma'am.
All right. What happens when fertilization does not take place? Now, if the fertilization does not take place, the egg will be remaining unfertilized. But as I told you that the uterus prepares itself every month in order to receive the fertilized egg. So obviously the uterus which has prepared itself, it has become thicker, it has been lined with blood vessels. So those blood vessels are present over there. And if the egg is not fertilized, then this lining is no more required. So this lining basically sheds down along with the blood and mucus. And this cycle basically continues every month. Since the egg is released every month, so this cycle is continued every month. So basically this process is called menstruation. And since it is repeated as a cycle, it is called menstrual cycle. Okay, so what happens when the fertilization does not take place? When the fertilization does not take place, then the lining of uterus, the thick lining of uterus is no longer required. All right. So It slowly breaks and comes out through vagina as blood and mucus. This is called menstruation. Since this cycle is taking place roughly every month, since every month egg is released. So it is called menstrual cycle. All right. So basically this process lasts for some 2 to 8 days. Every month. All right. So you could be asked what is the placenta, significance of placenta, like we just discussed. You'll be writing everything. Some important definitions which could be asked is what is ovulation? Ovulation, if they haven't discussed, just note down what is ovulation. Is the process of release of mature ovum. Process of release of mature ovum by ovary every month. So basically ovulation takes place nearly 14 days after the beginning of menstrual cycle. This is something you need to remember. Ovulation takes place 14 days after the beginning of every menstrual cycle. Implantation, I just explained, it is attachment of embryo to the walls of uterus. We just discussed menarche. Menarche, like I discussed, it is the onset of puberty in female. Menarche, we just discussed over here, onset of puberty, and basically it takes place around the age of nearly 10 to 12 years in female. And in female, there is a time when the ovum no longer produces the ovary no longer produces the ovum. We call this as menopause. Pause. To stop. So what is menopause? Menopause is stoppage of menstrual cycle. When the menstrual cycle stops, this means that the reproductive phase of the female ends over there. Okay, means there is no mature ovum which will be released by ovary that time. So basically it occurs at the time of say 45 to 50 years. Several changes take place in the female body at the time of menarche, and several changes take place even at the time of menopause. So it's a complete physical, social, mental development is also taking place because there's a lot of hormones which are causing a lot of changes in the body. This is menopause. You could be asked to differentiate between menopause and menarche. That's quite simple. You can write down the definition. You can write down that it is the starting onset of the reproductive cycle. It is the end of the reproductive cycle. And the age you can write down. It takes place at nearly 10 to 12 years, 10 to 15 years, 10 to 12 years. You can write down menopause around 45 to 50 years. Further, it changes from female to female. Menstruation, we already discussed, gestation period and parturition. These are important definitions which could be asked. All in all, let's discuss now the reproductive health of female. Reproductive health. Basically, what is reproductive health? Reproductive health is the state of physical, social, and mental well-being. Physical, social, and mental well-being of an individual so that he or she leads a healthy and safe reproductive. All right. Just hold on. Yeah. So reproductive health, you could be asked to write down the definition for reproductive health. It's the state of physical, social, and mental well-being of an individual so that he leads a healthy reproductive life, which is basically free from STDs. What are STDs? We'll be studying that. STDs. And there's one more term which is also called RTI, reproductive tract infection. Basically, we'll be studying different type of STDs over here. And in infections which can take place for the reproductive system, that is also called RTI and RTI. RTI, it's nothing but it's reproductive tract infection. All right. So why is it important? This is important because if female will be giving birth to large number of offspring, or there is no proper planning because of the, say, lack of education लगा लो या कुछ भी है ना, because in India we know several factors are there because of which some weaker societies are there, right? Because there are some other religious beliefs or family beliefs because of which the female may be asked to give birth to the offspring even when her body is not ready for that. The different age group between the two different siblings, that is very important. Age of female is very important. Mental state of female is very important. Physical state of female is very important. So it's very important for female especially to maintain their reproductive health. So for that, it's important that the pregnancy should be planned. So there are different ways how the pregnancy can be aborted in case it is not required. If unwanted pregnancy can be prevented. What are the different methods in order to maintain the reproductive health? It's important that female should not give birth to more than 1 or 2 kids because it's important for her body to be in the relaxed state so that it develops properly and is free from infections. Methods to avoid unwanted pregnancy. Because frequent pregnancies or frequent abortions, they are very dangerous for the life of the female. So different methods, the first includes the barrier method. Barrier method basically includes the condoms. There are 2 advantages using condoms. That first is the barrier method prevents unwanted pregnancy. Second is it also prevents STDs. STDs are the sexually transmitted disease. Second is the chemical method. In the chemical method, there could be some oral pills. Oral pills basically prevent the further, you can say it can act in different way. For example, it can kill the sperms, okay, or it can further lead to the non-development of the embryo. You can say non-development of the zygote also. So oral pills, basically these are the chemicals which basically led to the killing of the particular type of cells which have been generated. It also helps by obstructing certain type of hormones also. So different ways how it can act. So basically all in all, it will help in the prevention of the pregnancy. But of course, oral pills, they have some side effects also. on the female body. Next is surgical method. The surgical method is the method which is, say, the permanent method. For example, in males, vasectomy is done. Vasectomy name, as the name suggests, vasectomy, the vas deferens. Basically, the surgery by which the vas deferens is blocked. It is cut and tied. So vasectomy is the blocking of, surgery of vas deferens. So you have seen this vas deferens over here. So basically, this vas deferens is cut and tied on opposite side, so that there is no passage of sperms. Second, in females, what could be done? Surgical method. Under surgical method in females, fallopian tube is there, if you remember. So in females, it is tubectomy. From tube, just on tubectomy. In females, tubectomy is done. Tubectomy is blocking your surgery of fallopian tube or the oviduct. All right. So for example, say over here, if you see the diagram, so if you just cut over here and tie it on the opposite side. So basically, what we are doing, the ovary is no longer able to provide the egg to the fallopian tube. So if the fallopian tube is not receiving the egg, matlab, the egg will not be fertilized. All right, but none of these methods, the chemical method or surgical method, provide prevention against STDs. So only the barrier method provides protection against STDs. Last, what we can write over here is copper T. Copper T basically is a T-shaped, you can say, structure which is made up of copper, which is inserted at the vagina. So basically, it helps in the stoppage of the passage of the sperms towards the oviduct. Next, different type of STDs. There are two types of STDs. STD full form, sexually transmitted diseases. Two types of STDs on the basis of which organism possesses: bacterial and viral. Bacterial STDs, for example, gonorrhea, syphilis, and in case of viral, it's AIDS, you know the full form, acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. I can just write down acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. What is syndrome? Syndrome is not just a single disease. It's not just any single disease. Basically, syndrome is a disease in which the immune system becomes deficient, in which the immune system is suppressed. So in case the immune system is suppressed, matlab the person is now prone to diseases. All the diseases, all different types of disease. For example, even if the cough and cold is there for that person who is suffering from AIDS, because his immune system is depressed, there's deficiency of immune system, there's no WBC, there are no lymphocytes which are acting properly. So even if a small cough and cold is there, that can lead to strange, you can say very huge type of pneumonia. Okay, uncurable diseases. And the small disease can turn to be life-threatening for that person. So we call this syndrome. Syndrome is just like when a person is suffering from, say, collection of diseases just because of the weak immune system. And we have used the word acquired. Acquired, it's acquired. It's taken from some other person, from some infected person, right? So AIDS, which is caused by HIV virus. HIV is human immunodeficiency virus. It's a virus which causes deficiency of immune system in humans, HIV. Second disease which is caused by viral is vaginal. warts. Now, all these diseases, bacterial or viral, they can be transmitted from unhealthy person to the healthy person. All right, and the only way to prevent this is through the barrier method, right? No other method which have been discussed, they provide protection against STDs. So this is all for this chapter, reproduction. If you have any doubts, you may ask.